All right, guys, now here is the next exercise that will follow your value scales. And in this case, now you're going to practice shading from dark to light or light to dark in each of the shapes in this rectangle. One of the rules, however, though, is if you have this side is light, then the next, the side facing the light side is dark, and vice versa. So this has some shading, this is light. This is darker, this is light. This is darker, this is light. And you can kind of see how that's the case in all of the squares. When you do this, it gives the work a really cool kind of dimensional, kind of planar look, sort of like cubism. Last week when you guys were doing it, some of you were just doing it really fast and you did not have a nice progression of dark to light. You basically just created gray values. And you also were just randomly picking shapes to work in. That's not going to be, that's not going to work because it's how you respond to each side determines what was there in the first place. So for example, if I start with this, you can start anywhere. So if I start with this triangle, then the next two shapes I would do would be this shape and this shape. And then correspondingly, well, now I could work my way out to this shape and this shape and this shape and this shape, and then it'll work its way around. It says as part of the instructions to use B pencils. That means you can use anything with a B. I would suggest probably an HB, a 2B, maybe a 4B if you really want to get some of your darker values. We don't probably need the 6B in this case. So maybe start off with just with your HB and kind of see how it works. So I'm going to start up here in the corner of this triangular shape, and I'm going to start with dark value. And again, we're going to remember all of the same things that you just practiced with your value scales. This is kind of, you'll see throughout this class that any of the exercises or techniques that you're learning build on one another. Just like with our first project, we talked about doodles. We created a mind map that gave us ideas to create doodles. We created the doodles, and then you use the doodles that you created as part of your project. So that's going to be the same in this case, where we're practicing value scales. Then we're going to be practicing, in this case, creating smooth transitions in between dark and light values to create all kinds of mid values. And then we're going to apply it to a project. Actually, you'll have an option. There's two different options for the project that you're going to do. So you can see I'm making the darkest up here, and then again I'm moving down. So I'm just gradually adding less and less pressure. If you wanted to kind of do it like how we talked about before, so with this remaining part, I just shaded it as light as I possibly could, so you can kind of see it's dark and then light. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to work to apply a little bit more values as I work my way down. So it should look like your value scale, but without the lines in between, where it's just a slow progression of light to dark. And let's say you're saying, well, I didn't make the darkest as dark as I could. You can go back and go over it and just kind of shading lightly. And there is number 1. Okay. And I tried that with a HB. So it's still, the graphite is a little bit harder than some of the other ones, but it worked fine. So if you like that, you can continue with it. Maybe you say, well, maybe I want to try graphite. That's just a little bit not quite as hard as that one. So now when I go on to do my next one, all right? I can start either in this triangle or this triangle. If I start down here, what value am I going to use? I'm going to use my darkest value because it is touching the lightest value, okay? And then as I go up here, I go along here, I'm getting lighter, and that's like my lightest. Okay, so I'm gonna shade that in here like that, but then I have to realize, oh, there's kind of some in-between values. And then how am I gonna handle it in the rest of the triangle? Well, so what I can do is I can, this is my darkest. Pencil's getting a little funky on the end. And then as I go out, I have my medium, and then what I can do is I can make all of this right here so you really want to make sure you get a nice progression. So what I was seeing last week from a lot of you was you would just have like maybe a dark value, but then the rest of the shape would be just a gray value, like one value, a single darkness, and you didn't see the progression. So you can see this takes a little bit of time and fussing around. So it went from darkest to lightest here, and then whoops. And I can also, if you use two different pencils, you can kind of see how the HB gave me a smoother look to the dark to light, and this 2B gave me a little bit of a more greeny look. So it's totally up to you, the effect that you're looking for. Now again, so if now I'm going to either choose this triangle or this triangle. This triangle, it would be starting with my darkest value, and this whole side here is my lightest value. So this is where this is all going to be dark right in here. So this is my darkest side. And then it's going to go to and now we're going to slowly transition so it's not And again, you can make just your lightest value. And then I kind of have to go back and transition. And again, if I want to, I can say, you know what, my darkest dark wasn't as dark as it could be. So then I'm going to go back up there and add that. Okay. And then you can kind of see how that is like that. And then I would go, if I go over here, this is going to be my lightest value. I'm going to switch back just to my HB for the fun of it. So again, this is going to be my lightest here. But then as I go down, it's going to get darker here. So the darkest is and then it gets from darkest to medium, to less medium, to the lightest. Okay. And then I can kind of transition it out over here. So all this in here is kind of the medium value. And then this is light. So I hope this helps you guys to see kind of the progression that I was looking for. And there. Now there's still just a lot of light right in here, so this is where then I would go back and make this a little bit darker. And then fill in this mid-range value in here. So it's just a matter of kind of adding layers to your shading as you go. Okay, and then on this square, or not square, on this particular shape, the darkest is going to be along here and then go to the lightest. And if I'm doing this triangle, again, it would be darkest, and then I would transition to the lightest. I want you to try to do this without using the blending tool, because then it kind of forces you to really work on your transitions from darkest, so I'm pressing super, a lot of pressure, medium pressure, like no pressure. Okay, so you're going to continue, and as you work, you'll just work till you reach the edge. Okay.